Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC. It's time to do the full review of the Arrma Kraton 4x4 4S BLX. V2.5 is what people are calling it. It's still technically called the V2, but they do have some improvements, didn't change the name. So we're going to be doing a full review of this in 6 different categories. The way this works is we give it a rating from 1 to 5 stars in each of those categories. 3 stars would mean it's average, 5 stars would be best in class, 1 star would be worst in class, and it is graded on a curve. Competitors to the Arrma Kraton are going to be things like the Traxxas Max V2, which I also have, the Skeeter 4S, which I also have, maybe the Outcast 4x4 4S V2.5, which I also have. So yeah, let's get into the review. First category is the electronics, and the radio comes with is the SLT3 from Spectrum. This is based off their lower end RTR radio, but it does come with the SR315 receiver, which is compatible with all the other Spectrum radios. So if you have a DX5C or DX6C, DX5 Pro, anything like that, you can bind this right up. That's actually what I normally run on my DX5 Pro, so that's awesome. I do like the radio receiver combination. I think that's best in class. The Arrma, I think it's called the V2 120 amp ESC, excellent. 4S capable, 3S as well. Lots of programming options. It feels a little quicker than the old one. I'm not sure. I do think the electronics on this thing are best in class. Your standard 36 by 68 2400 kV motor. Did redesign the heatsink a little bit, so it supports the motor a little bit better. Does normally have a fan as well, which broke on mine, but I run it without it. Didn't really seem to have any issues. And they did go to a 25 tooth, I think it's a S662 servo. Fairly slow servo. They say 18 kilograms, but I've seen some other specs that say more like 12 to 14 kilograms, so I'm not sure what the correct rating is, but it is a little bit on the slow side, but it is 25 tooth, which is a nice improvement over the 23 tooth servos that they used to run. So huge fan of the electronics in this thing. I think it is best in class. I only give it 5 stars. Everything about this is awesome. Even the servo is adequate. A little bit slow. That'll probably be the one area you might want to upgrade electronics wise. The rest of the package is really good. They made a few changes to this vehicle, which I think are all important. I think Arrma listens really well to their customers. Pretty much everything I've ever complained about the Arrma, they've improved. So 5 or 6 years ago, I did do a comparison to the Traxxas Max. I kind of said that this platform was not adequate for 4S. You know, this is pretty much based on the original Omega and then the 3S BLX. They just kind of made it better and better, but at the time I said this was the wrong platform for 4S, but I gotta admit, I was wrong. Arrma was able to deliver something that I think does work really well as a 4S platform. I'm a little bit surprised and I gotta eat crow, but Arrma was able to turn this platform into something that I think works really well. Improvements, first off, the chassis is a huge improvement over the original V2. The original one definitely could crack. The motor could slam into the bottom here, crack the chassis. Also the neck could break as well, so a few issues that we had there that were majorly addressed. Number 2, I would say, is the center differential. So the old one had a slipper clutch, move the motor back a bit. A lot of people had issues with the slip clutch. I didn't really so much, but the center diff definitely improves the performance, especially on the steering side. I think that would be the performance area that people complain about the most. Didn't steer all that well, but they did improve that. Huge improvement there. Does drive a lot bit better. Higher med guards. Again, one of the things I complained about was the plastic center shaft. Rocks could definitely get into your chassis, grind up against that center shaft, tear it up, and be something that you need to replace. But these new mud guards definitely protect the chassis a lot better. All the dirt, all the rocks, everything does not come into the chassis like it did before. So even though it's still got center plastic shaft there, I would say they've actually pretty much addressed that I would say an aluminum center shaft is not needed anymore. They did some other minor updates like revise the wire management system. They did revise the battery strap holders, put little guards here in the back. So some small improvements, but overall does come to a really nice package. In the design category, I'm gonna get 4 stars. The other thing I would say they improved was the centralized weight distribution. So not only do you have a center differential that helps the steering, actually allows the front and rear tires to turn at different rates. Definitely helps a lot on the ground when you're trying to go around corners, but they moved everything on the motor sides forward quite a bit. I'd say about ½ inch or so. Does centralize the weight of this motor quite a bit, which is one of the heaviest components on the car. Does drive a lot bit better, definitely more steering, so that is a nice improvement. They did remove the sway bars as well, which again I would say is a nice improvement. It allows a little bit more, more steering both on the front and rear tires. It still does understeer on power because it does tend to wheelie a little bit, or at least lighten the front, but it still works well. Definitely a big improvement over the old one. The only thing I really don't like is the new battery straps. So battery straps have these little clips now that you're supposed to mount the battery wires and stuff like that. I don't even use that at all. I didn't find that particularly useful, so I just strap them down like I used to with the old ones. That's probably the only thing I don't like, but the cool thing is you can address that very easily. You can get your own battery straps from basically any brand, or you can even use the old V2 battery straps from the original Kraton 4S V2. So that's pretty easy to address. Last thing I would say is probably the body clips are a little bit thick for these, but that's something they've kind of been doing for years now. But overall, in the design category, 4 stars. A couple of little things I don't like. The battery straps, a little bit harder to work on, like a chassis swap definitely is more involved than something else. But overall, yeah, great platform, great chassis overall, and design-wise, 4 stars. The Arrma Kraton is fast. Part of it is just due to the lightweight, but part of it, I do think these electronics feel a little bit quicker than the old electronics. I'm not sure if they are. I think they are called the V2, kind of these black electronics. It does seem a little bit quicker. I would say it's actually best in class in speed-wise. Steering-wise, it is a huge improvement again. Tires work pretty well in all surfaces. They're not too bad on dirt. I think the Outcast tire is a little bit more of a dirt-biased tire, but this is a little bit more all-terrain, so we'll drive a little bit better on grass, on the road, or dirt, so that works pretty well. Steering is pretty good. Servo is a little bit slow. I'd say that's kind of the area I would say is probably a downgrade from some of the other vehicles out there. But rotation in the air is excellent. One thing I would say is that not only does the center differential help the steering on the ground, because it allows the front and rear wheels to turn at different speeds, basically match the correct arcs of each tire that you're trying to go through in a corner, but moving that weight forward does help it in the air as well. I find this thing actually rotates in the air better than before. I think it's because that motor is just more centralized than before rather than hanging off on the ends. So I think that improves the stability of this vehicle as well. Suspension is set up perfectly, as with all Arrmas. Yeah, just a great performing vehicle all around. Really, really fun. I think this is awesome on the ground, in the air, as a stunt vehicle, in all sorts of terrain. So in that category, I'm going to give it 5 stars in performance. I think this is best in class. Now, the original Kraton V2, I did give a pretty low rating in the durability category. I actually gave it a below average score of 2 stars. The overall vehicle was pretty durable, but did have one fatal flaw, which is that the chassis tended to break. So doing huge air, 20 feet plus, doing double backflips in there, anything of that sort, even landing on all 4 tires, I would crack the chassis, and I probably went through 4 or 5 chassis over the lifetime between that and the Outcast. But this thing, I have not had any chassis issues whatsoever. Have not cracked anything. The motor seems well supported. Haven't snapped the neck like I did on the old ones. The one I think I even broke a shock tower once. So overall, the chassis is hugely durable now. I have no concerns about that at all. The only thing I've ever broken is a rear hinge pin holder right there, which is actually part of the chassis. When I landed this once, trying to do a front flip, landed on the corner. That pretty much tweaked the arm and ripped it out of that hinge pin holder. And the hinge pin holder is part of the chassis, so technically I did break the chassis, but not due to just landing it on all 4s like I did with the old one. So durability wise, I'm gonna get 4 stars. I don't think it's best in class. The Max is still the king of durability, probably the most durable RC car period of anything you can buy, but this is pretty good. I think I'm going to give it an above rating, 4 stars in the durability category. I'm glad they really pretty much figured it out. I was a little surprised, a little shocked. I thought for sure they would add like a metal bash bar or something like that, but yeah, this chassis seems to be holding up. Now, M2C Racing does make a new bash bar that will fit the V2s. The old bash bar that they had for the original V2s does not fit because they did redesign the chassis, so you will have to get the new one, but I'll have a link in the description below. If you wanted a huge air, or you're concerned about landing on rocks and something like that, that is another upgrade that is available. But yeah, durability wise, 4 stars. This is really, really good. I mean, the only other thing I broke was the fan, but pretty much all fans will break eventually, so that is not something that concerns me. Arrma has the best warranty in the business at 2 years, and pretty much everyone I know that ever had to contact them about issues with this car, they were able to get replacement parts. Personally, I think people abuse the warranty system. They'll crash this into a tree, do cartwheels, and it'll break, and they'll say, oh, well, that's the truck's fault. It's not really the truck's fault in my opinion, but if you do have a legitimate manufacturing defect, Arrma is really, really easy to work in. I've never had any issues with anything in the past, so that is great about them. Traxxas, again, is their main competitor. I think Traxxas does have better local hobby shop support. Certainly out there it is a bigger brand, but in the support and maintenance category, I'm gonna get 4 stars. This thing's not too bad to work on. A chassis swap is a little bit more involved, probably 40 minutes or so, but the rest of the vehicle comes out pretty reasonably easily. I do like that they improved the center power module as well. They no longer have this big clip that goes over the back, but there's just 2 additional screws that holds it in place. So I think that again is a little bit of a serviceability improvement that they did there. So in the support and maintenance category, I'm gonna get 4 stars. Pretty easy to get parts. This platform's been out for a while, so arms and stuff like that are no issue at all. So anyways, yeah, support and maintenance, it's pretty good. Definitely above average, 4 stars. Arrma did something unheard of in RC, which is make an RC car better than the previous version. Add some nice updates, including a better servo, better ESC, better chassis as well, a nice center differential, which generally costs more than a slipper to manufacture, but then they dropped the price somehow. So I don't know how they managed to do that, but they made a better vehicle and they made it cheaper at the same time. It used to be about $470 for the original V2. This one is $450, so it is $20 cheaper. So I'm glad to see that. Value-wise, even though it's got a lot of plastic parts and stuff, it is the cheapest by far. The Skeeter is $519 at the time of this video. The Max is $570. So you're saving between $70 to $100 over the competition. It's not got as nice parts. The Skeeter definitely has the aluminum chassis, the all aluminum shocks, including shock caps and stuff, the aluminum center differentials and front and rear differentials, but that is more, and I think this is a good value. So we're gonna give it 5 stars in the value category. It is the cheapest by far, and really good components as well. All the electronics and stuff are top notch, so I can't really complain about that. Even the tires I think are better than most of the competition. So yeah, in the value category, we're gonna give it 5 stars. They have a winner here in my opinion. I don't know why or how or what they were able to do to drop the price, but yeah, $450 is a really good deal for this RC car. So in conclusion, the Arrma 4x4 Force V2.5, whatever you want to call it, is a huge improvement over the V2. I know a lot of people looked at this and said, oh, well, that's pretty much the same car. It is not. The center differential does make a big difference. I know people complained about the slipper because they had problems setting it or loosening or whatever over time, but the center differential really is not just a serviceability improvement, but actually a performance improvement. I think that's the area that I was the most surprised with this, is that how much better it drives. So steering is hugely improved. It is much more fluid on the ground. That center differential does help with that. The weight distribution, moving the weight forward towards the middle of the vehicle, again helps the cornering, helps the rotation in the air, which is the part I didn't really expect. This thing actually rotates faster in the air, in my opinion, than the old one. But yeah, and having that weight in the middle also helps it on the ground, because it can just kind of carry the weight through the corner rather than having it like swinging front and back like you tend to do with something that's not truly 50-50 balanced. So yeah, nice performance improvements. It does seem a little bit quicker. I do like the electronics. Going to a standardized 25-tooth servo is nice. I have to say, when the original V1 came out, I did have a long list of complaints about what I didn't like about the car, and I have to give Arrma credit, because everything I've ever complained about with this platform, they've addressed. They used to have these funky little inserts on the wheel nuts. The arms used to break. The chassis I felt was like too short. Rocks would get stuck at the center shaft. The center differential, I felt like was going to be an improvement. The steering I felt wasn't that great. Even things like the sway bars, I thought you should remove the sway bars on the old Kraton 4x4 V2, and they did that. So I have to give Arrma props. They fixed everything I've ever complained about this, and I have to eat crow because I was wrong about this platform. This is really, really good. This might actually be my favorite Arrma that I have, and I have pretty much everything in the lineup. I've been driving the 6S EXP at the same time as this, so I am very familiar pretty much everything they have out. But yeah, this is an awesome vehicle. I have no complaints. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the the Arrma Kraton V2.5, whatever you want to call it. Let me know what you think about this. We will have links in the description below where you can pick one of these up. I am also running this Genzace 5300 4S pack, which I think fits perfectly, probably the ideal battery, so I'll have a link in the description where you can pick one of those up. But anyways, don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe buttons. Look for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.